Okay. Comes with everybody. Comes with.
What are you drinking, Harry?
I got a nice lukewarm Budweiser. It used to be cold, but shit. Time makes fools of us all.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate, oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes. Let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week, we're reviewing the latest C2E2 for 2020.
That's right, straight out of Chicago.
Yes, right off the car ride. I didn't fly. We're also going to be discovering who the Squadron Supreme are this week, Mike.
All right. Is that a streetwear clothing brand, or is this something different?
It's something different. I know who it is, but I'll be learning you something. We'll also be discussing a new director for Indiana Jones 5 and what that means, and more.
So I was going to say, it's like the curse of living in the Midwest, and it's only at the front of my brain because I actually saw a meme of it on the internet recently. I mean, where else would I see a meme? I don't know why I need to... No, I was at an old folks home and they print off their memes there.
Billboards.
Yes, billboards. Well, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if I see a meme on a billboard anywhere around this town. But... it was a meme along the lines of, like, basically if you live in the Midwest and anything is within like a 12-hour drive, you're going to drive it. You're not even going to consider flying there. So, I mean, Chicago is much closer than 12 hours for you, but it's still a far enough drive. So I have to thank you for hopping on the microphone because you're pretty much fresh out of a car. So you had to drive the entire length of the state of Indiana, which, if you don't know, if you've never looked at Indiana on a map before, it's a very long state. So you went from top to bottom pretty much to get home to come back from Chicago, from what I call Chicago Comic-Con. So it's glad to hear your voice, Chris.
Glad to see it. Yeah, no, I'm glad to be back. It was I left on Thursday and got back on Sunday, and so it's been a whirlwind of a few days. You know, it's good, and there's bad because you don't want it to end, but it's good because, like, man, I'm tired. I am so tired. We just said top. I'm dehydrated. I'm going to be drinking water a lot during this show to make up for it because. With the current, just to put it, the current climate of disease prevention, I'm not drinking water off the show floor. So.
Well, you know what? I have to say you strategized really, really well. Chicago, it's a big, scary city. There's diseases floating all around. So super fan Jim joined you as, I believe, your bodyguard. He was pushing people away. He was punching them, wrestling to the ground. He's putting his own immune system at risk to keep the podcast safe.
He did none of those things. No, I believe it was the other way around. I keep telling every year I try to bring someone new to this convention, right? No matter who it is. So I am essentially the Red Skull from Infinity War, right? I guide others to a treasure I cannot possess.
You're a shepherd. That's nice of you.
Exactly. So I'm like, come, my fellow sheep. Next, we plan on renting out the whole wing of a hotel some year with all the people I'm bringing. So
well, you know what? This is not the type of podcast where you usually hear us talk about diseases and the coronavirus that's sweeping the nation in the worst possible way.
You mean globe? But yes.
But it is kind of the start of con season. I don't know really what the first con is that kind of kicks everything off, but C2E2 is definitely early in the cycle. And I mean, we got big events that are not con related, like, the Olympics coming up, and there's a lot of questions out there in the world because a lot of technology, like Game Developers Conference, I believe. I don't know if that was officially canceled, but I know. Okay, I knew a lot of big people had backed out. So I mean, I have San Diego Comic-Con coming up in July, and I'm actually kind of curious, like, well, what are they going to do? That's one of the biggest conventions. You're going to have a lot of people coming from a lot of different areas visiting it. So, I mean, I'm a little worried exactly how the convention season is going to pan out this year.
It's downwind from LA too, man. That's not good for it.
I mean, the West Coast too. That we're getting kind of some of the first cases of the virus here. So, crossing my fingers. But the great thing about podcasts is you don't have to go outside to record them, and they can't be transmitted through your earbuds, so you're safe here. So if anybody is being forcefully quarantined or voluntarily quarantining themselves, we're glad we can be here with you.
Well, what about this, Mike? What if you're quarantined in a room and you need to get out?
Oh, Chris, that is an amazing segue.
Thank you. I set you up here.
You really pulled it off. Yeah, so while you were gallivanting around Chicago this weekend, I got to go do an escape room, which is something I've only done one other time before for my wife's 30th birthday. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with escape rooms, but the one I did was pretty cool. It was kind of roughly Harry Potter themed. Like, they don't exactly tell you, like, oh, this is a Harry Potter themed room, but they're definitely leaning into the fantasy magical elements. So if you have any of those fans in your household, bring them to this escape room. So kind of an unofficially licensed type deal. So this time around, we went to an escape room that was officially licensed by the South Park crew. So it was an originally written story from Trey Parker and Matt Stone. They voice acted it. There's some unique animations that play through screens and monitors and stuff throughout the experience. So it was pretty cool. It's not just localized to LA. I think I Googled it after the fact, and I think they're in some other cities across the country and maybe even across the world. I'm not entirely sure, but it was really fun. Mm-hmm. You kind of walk in, and the theme of it is like Cartman has used some sort of like a school security system to lock you into the classroom, and you have to get out before, I think it was lunch period's over. So he's kind of toying with you the whole time. Every once in a while, he'll pop up over like a loudspeaker and make fun of you while you're trying to work through his puzzles. Just like any other escape room, you're deciphering codes and opening up drawers. You open up a drawer, you'll find Mr. Hat, or there might be you might have to assemble like some sort of puzzle that includes like Clyde Frog. So it was all very much on brand. I don't want to spoil anything in case anybody gets to do the escape room, and I've heard it's kind of like a no-no to spoil these types of things. And even the person that walked us through, who did the opening spiel for the escape room, said, don't take any pictures. I even asked afterwards if I could take kind of one localized picture. He's like, no, unfortunately that item is a clue. We don't want you taking pictures of it. So there was this one cool moment where in order to get one of the crucial clues, you actually have to call a phone number. And it's not like a 555 phone number. It's like, oh, you actually take out your cell phone, call this real phone number, and a South Park character talks to you on the other end. So I thought that was really cool that they leaned into this other aspect. Basically just knowing anybody that lives on the planet that goes into an escape room has a cell phone and has the ability to call, at the very least, at least one person. So if you're anywhere near the Cartman escape room, go check it out. It was pretty fun. We escaped with 10 minutes to spare. We got caught up by a couple of things, and I guess the guy who was kind of monitoring the room while we were doing it, he said he was rooting for us the whole time. He thought we were going to break the record, but we got caught up on a few kind of crucial things. But yeah, South Park Cartman escape room. Go check it out.
And apparently bring your phone, because if you go phoneless,
they give you a very vague clue at the beginning, like feel free to bring your phones, no pictures, no recording, but you could possibly use your other functions of your phone. And we thought it was the flashlight function, which actually did kind of come in handy at one point in time, but we quickly found out later, oh, yep, you got to call something.
There it is. So you had a good time then?
Yes, very cool. They had this cool thing where they replaced like a frosted glass of a classroom door with a monitor, so you could kind of see like the outline of like PC Principal like knocking on the door. And I think maybe they had some sort of like mechanical thing happening where it was actually knocking on the door. So it's like, oh cool, it kind of looks like there's like a silhouette of PC Principal there. So yeah, it was pretty high end, I would say. Okay,
so you would say this is hella sweet, not screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yes, hella sweet, definitely, for sure.
You got to throw a South Park reference in there. I'm sure there's more better ones, but I just don't know what they are off the top of my head. So that's good. Well, while you were doing that, Mike, I was taking Chicago by storm.
By storm.
And by that, it really didn't storm. It was just really cold for a few days. So, again, C2E2 is the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, C2E2. This is the earliest it's ever been. This was my 10th year going. I have all 10 badges lined up right here from every year I've got to go. It's really, really a fun event if you live in the Midwest. And it is... what we say, like one of the fifth biggest Comic Cons now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going off of any stats, but I mean, if you just kind of roughly know the con landscape, if you're just counting them on your hands, I would say within the top 5.
Yeah, and it also, like, if you can't make it to the West Coast, you can't make it to New York, this is a perfect thing right in the middle here. So I think it's a great time. I will tell you right now, we had Superfan Jim with us. He stayed with us. He was a very good roommate to have. So thank you. I know you're listening. He took the train down from his state all the way into Chicago to Union Station, and then stayed around and then went back up. So it was his first time going, and it's hard to explain what C2E2 is until you experience it. But I just want to go on and tell you, the first day I was there, we got there Thursday, and we walked to a Popeyes, Mike. You know why? Because we were hungry. This was...
Oh, do they have the chicken sandwich there in Chicago?
I don't know. We went in and left immediately.
Okay.
we walked in and immediately, apparently, so my other people with me, my friend Jeremy and Jim, this lady apparently asked him to buy her, give her money or buy her chicken sandwiches. Like, she's sitting in this little... The Popeyes is like 2 tables inside. It's very small.
This is very much a unique experience to Popeyes, because this actually happened to me. I went to a trivia at a bar down in Hollywood on like a Saturday afternoon. So it was around lunchtime. I was hungry. The bar really wasn't serving very, I would say, unctuous food for a very hungry person in a bar. So there was a Popeyes across the street. So I walk on over to Popeyes going, man, I sure would like to try this Popeyes chicken sandwich. And right out the front, similar experience, a guy says, hey, man, could you, I'm hungry. Could you, buy me something? And it's just usually you don't have the normal excuse that you can give people of just oh, sorry, I don't have any cash on me. This guy's just looking for some food. And I'm just all right, that's fine. Really easy on me. All I have to do is just double up my order, and then I'll just give him another chicken sandwich. I feel like a good person. He'll get a meal. I get to move on my day and go back to trivia. Well, I walk into the Popeyes, during the whole Popeyes chicken sandwich craze, and the line's really long, and I got to get back to this bar. So I just have to turn around and walk out, and then I realized, oh, I have to tell this guy he's not getting food from me because the line was too long. And he was just oh, okay, thanks, man. And I was I get he was not expecting that excuse, but it wasn't an excuse. I legitimately did not want to wait in that line.
Well, this lady asked Jim and Jeremy. I didn't hear it. I'm just waiting in line. This is an interesting Popeyes, because you have to go talk to one of those bank speakers at the front. And I'm okay, all right. And then you have to wait in line beyond that. We didn't know how long we were gonna wait. So apparently this lady just looks between them and starts asking me this question, and I didn't hear it. So Jeremy heard it, and I'm just staring at this lady, and he stops talking because he thinks I'm going to respond. So for the next 60 seconds, I'm just staring this lady down in this Popeyes. No words being said, and I'm uh-huh. No. And then we ended up leaving and going to Culver's for dinner, but it was the most storied way to kick off this whole adventure before we even had our badges.
Well, I mean, I'm not 100% sure of the origin of Culver's, but I know it's a very Midwest experience in my mind. So you had a Midwest Comic-Con, so you had a Midwest dinner to start it out with.
Yeah, I mean, it was about a 1.5 mile walk, and which Google lied to me and said was 7 minutes. It wasn't. It was not 7 minutes. It was more like 30 minutes. So we were really cold and ready to just sit down and eat. But then we went and got our badges at Will Call, walked in, picked them up, walked out. It was really cool to, this year they have expanded the show floor a little bit wider. Mm-hmm. So every year a little bit more. This floor gets bigger. And, when we walked in on Friday is the best day to go to C2E2. Do you know why Friday is the best day to go?
Why is it the best day to go?
Because everyone's still at work. All the locals come on Saturday, and Saturday is about if you get there at 10, we didn't get in until probably 11:15. Through the check and the lines and stuff. We also went to Starbucks and waited on that for a little bit, so it wasn't completely our fault, but that security check takes forever. And this, we did this at San Diego. Well, they're not they're a little bit more on the ball at San Diego. There's more doors, but Friday we you get in, you're in line, they let you in, and you go, and there's a lot of room to walk around, a lot of stuff to do. So what I like to do on Friday is buy all the stuff I'm going to buy for the weekend. Most people say, well, wait till Sunday. I don't go on Sundays. I have to drive home. I don't want to go to the convention, because your hotel you have to check out at 11. I don't want to park my car, pay whatever that is. So I go home on Sundays.
You're rolling the dice on Sundays too, because some of the good stuff might be gone.
It is. So I buy Friday, I get what I want, and then I don't have to carry it around on Sunday when there's more people there, bumping into people. So that's what I did. I bought a pop vinyl. I bought some books. Every book I bought was on the list of stuff I wanted to buy, Mike. It was very good. Didn't overextend myself at all on this, so that was great. The floor layout this year at Chicago was amazing. You walk in, you get your big name publishers, right? There's you remember at the San Diego the Gundam stuff, the Funimation, it's right there. There's Marvel, there's DC, there's some other big publishers right in the gate, right? If you want to get them, boom, you're done. To the right, they actually took all the comic book vendors and put them all in rows this time. They're all in one section. You want to go get your comic books, you have one area to do it, and you don't have to go all over to different vendors. Beyond that is the shop vendors where you buy your pop vinyls, your sword makers. There was a tattoo booth there this year. Get your tattoos. Stuff like that was the next section. And then Artist Alley. Familiar with that? That's where artists exist, but also comic book writers will usually have tables in there. So I'm going to talk about one on Saturday. Saturday's where I got to do all this fun stuff. And then beyond that is the back wall is all autographs and photo ops. So if you have something for like Mark Ruffalo or the Arrow crew, that was back there. Then it loops back around into the bigger name vendors, like there's a local brewing company that has set up there. The video game section and stuff like that. The floor layout was amazing this year, Mike. I've got pictures I'm going to post probably tomorrow about this. So
love to hear it. I love it. I love it when a con is organized, because you got to attack it. You got to be strategized, and when they make it easier to navigate, it's better for everybody.
It is, and in 10 years, this thing has grown exponentially. So if you walk in and you haven't studied the map, you don't know what you're doing. So you kind of go through and figure it out. And I was really, really happy with the layout this year. For that, I got to go to at least one panel on Friday, the Marvel, the X-Men panel. So they have the X-Men writers of all the X-Men books up there talking about their plans for this year and their big event, 10 of Swords, coming out this summer. But the 10 is an X, so I don't know why they call it 10 of Swords. Is this X of Swords sounds cooler, but whatever. So a bunch of X-Men with swords are going to be in this book for some reason.
Sounds like they're ready to boot up the action figure line again.
Yeah, exactly. We were joking, my friend Jeremy and I, Wolverine has a sword in this. He's got 3 in each hand. Why does he need a sword?
Well, he's got to diversify his blades. He's got to give him a break.
Yeah, he's got to be doing that. So that was interesting. And then also, the last thing I want to say about Friday is there is a soda vendor called Wild Bill's. Have you ever heard of them?
Never heard of it.
Okay, so it's essentially like it looks like an old-timey wagon cart parked there, right? And you go up, you buy a cup, and you get all refills all you want all day on all their sodas that you get off the tap of this little wagon thing.
That's amazing. That's a great idea.
So they have grape soda, root beer, cream soda, a black cherry soda, just a sparkling water one if you want that. So I got this big metallic C2E2 branded mug that I was filling up all weekend at this thing every time I ran low.
It's kind of like, since you're inside, it's like a similar vibe of like going to like a casino, but also you're getting like a collectible cup. So it reminds me like you're also going to like a zoo. So it's like the con is like mashing up these two ideas of just like, just buy this collectible thing, you can drink out of it all day.
They should have had cotton candy next to it. They did not. So but that, I digress.
A stuffed snake or a stuffed monkey. I mean, that goes well with it too.
Well, they had stuffed all sorts of anime things all over the place, Mike. You didn't have to look too hard for that. But if you pay $10 extra, you got unlimited refills all weekend rather than just that day. So I loaded up. I loaded up for the weekend, and it's a really cool cup. I'll get a picture of it later too. But that's the first day. Like I said, it's a very relaxed day. I was with Jim and Brian pretty much all day. We all went around. I got my comic book signed by Jonathan Hickman, the writer of the X-Men series. And picked up the books I wanted. It was a good time. But Saturday's where you fight the crowds, Mike. If you're listening today and you got some free stuff from me on Saturday, congratulations and welcome to the show. If you did not, and you're listening for the first time, welcome to the show. However, I will tell you, by the time I got to the floor at, it was on the floor at 10:45, or 11:15 is what it was. I ran in to Scott Snyder himself. Are you familiar with Scott Snyder's work at DC?
I mean, I know he's over there at DC. Wait. Did he do Court of Owls?
He did. He's known for his Batman run. Very big Batman run.
Mm-hmm.
He also has been working on Justice League lately, and he did the Dark Knight's Metal series you probably saw for a while. So with the all the Batmans that had like different Justice League powers and stuff like that, but they're evil. So I mean, he is known for for working very hard at DC and creating a bunch of this stuff, and especially Cordell's, like you said. But I ran into, like, he's sitting there. Artist and writer David Fincher is sitting there, who's known for doing other DC books. He did the Ultimatum line for Marvel. I've actually met him in thing, and he's only there for this day. Is what the crazy thing. He's only there for 4 hours on this Saturday. He flew in, did some signings, hung out, some panels, left that evening. Like, boom, boom. He just standing there, and I'm like, "Is that Scott Snyder?" And Brian's like, "I'll ask him." So we asked him. He's like, "Yeah." And he was cool enough to talk to us for a minute, and I got my photo with him. I sent it over to you later, which was a really cool, like, things that happen at Comic-Con. Oh, you run into people who are famous on accident.
Yeah, that is the best thing about Comic-Con, because what you're going to find is you're going to find a lot of really influential people that you look up to in kind of this greater kind of geek nerd community, but they're kind of finally coming out from behind their desks or, from behind the camera, whatever they do, because a lot of the people we really love in this world are the ones that are actually making the stuff, not necessarily the people that are starring in the stuff. So it's like, well, you're familiar with their faces because you probably follow them on Twitter or social media, but you've never really come across them. So when you see them like in a convention, like I believe we both had a similar experience together at San Diego Comic-Con. You're like, oh, that's that one person from that one thing, and they're just walking around like a normal person, and you're in the great thing is you're in the context where you feel totally okay walking up to them. Like if they were at like the grocery store, if you saw them pumping gas, you're not going to bother them, but they're at a comic book convention, so all the inhibitions are to the wind, and it's just great that you can approach these people.
Yeah, and it's funny because the artist he worked with, Greg Capullo, for a while there, I actually got my photo with him several years ago on accident as well, walking through the line. So I kind of came full circle here, and it was very, very cool to run into this guy. And then I walked over to the Marvel, the Artist Alley, and I'm hanging out, and there is the line for the X-Men writers, and the guy who's writing Wolverine, the new series coming out, is Benjamin Percy. And Ben Percy is known for writing the Wolverine audiobooks that Mike listens to, the podcasts.
Oh, great. Did you ask them if oh man, I can't even. Why can't I think of his name? Henry Cavill. Did he ask him if Henry Cavill is going to be Wolverine or not? That's the rumor that's been floating around.
No, he didn't know anything about this for the movies. He just knows the podcast stuff. He wrote them and he did the graphic novel version of them. But he did say they signed a deal with Spotify for 5 more series of different characters they haven't announced yet.
That's a big deal because Wolverine kind of got its start over at Stitcher, and I believe it's still over there right now. So man, whew, good for them.
Yeah, so that's a big guy for a new series, and he said that was coming up, and he also writes a series called X-Force right now, which I really enjoy. So I got him to sign my #1, and then I'm talking to him, and next thing you know, Scott Snyder comes up to him. So the Scott Snyder guy, I feel like he's following me at this convention already. So, but that was cool. I thought that'd be a cool shot for you, Mike. To I asked him about the audiobooks and what the plans were. So we'll knock on wood. The panel I went to that day was actually sponsored by Cards Against Humanity. They're a big they have a bunch of comedians and improv panels. But apparently
I think, isn't Cards Against Humanity located in Chicago?
Yes.
I think that's their home base.
Yeah, their home base is there. So they sponsor a lot of these. And one of the, I think it's a podcast called Dungeons, Dice, and Everything Nice. Mm-hmm. It's this Dungeons and Dragons thing with 4 female characters and they're dungeon masters. So they did a live version of it there with all the actors in thing. I'm trying to see if it's on. They're on Patreon, so I think it's an upcoming thing. So it was really cool to see them do this, and it was hilarious because in these panels, especially these Cards Against Humanity panels, guess what? Nothing is forsaken. Nothing is sacred in these. The language is there. The situation.
It's a not safe for work panel.
Oh yeah, no. These folks, like, at some point they were doing they had them acted out. There was they were like a Candyland kind of thing, and they had to go through these feats, and they had them like using Nerds rope to like the Lady in the Tramp style Nerds rope for that thing, and I was like, that is wild. But it was fun, and I think I might go back and pick up some of these just to see, kind of catch up to these characters that they've built over the years. So I'm gonna go check that. That was a really, really fun panel. After that, walk the show floor, get some other stuff. Didn't really pick up a lot that day because I was smart and got the day before. But the evening I spent at the Funimation after party downtown Chicago all evening. Great. And there was a place called Spin Chicago, and Spin is a ping pong bar.
Oh, cool.
So they've got ping pong tables everywhere, ping pong balls everywhere. Because what's the worst thing about playing ping pong? You break a ball, you run out, no more.
Yeah, just lean over. There's one on the floor somewhere.
We joked. Someone was joking that they had this tub of ping pong balls there, and it looked like Kenan Thompson doing the French guy from All That in the tub.
Yeah.
Then they played the theme to All That. These people were pulling out 90s TV shows and like early 2000s songs because this was like, you know, the Funimation crowd. So there's a bunch of awkward white people dancing and a lot of anime stuff going on. But it was a good time. I think that was a nice way to really wrap up Chicago Comic Con.
I mean, you quintessentially hit all of the check boxes on a Comic-Con trip. You met a celebrity that you really like. You bought the merch. You walked the floor. You did an after party. You probably paid way too much for some sort of beverage or food item.
Oh, that cup!
Convention.
That cup was way too expensive, but it was worth it.
You hit all the marks, man. Good job.
Well, thank you. Superfan Jim was with us, like I said, and he it was his first time going to this, and he gave me I have his notes right here in front of me of what he would tell people for first timers coming to this.
Okay.
Because I didn't get it. So first and foremost, organize what panels you want to go to and get in line a bit early.
Absolutely.
I've never seen so many panelists full. Please go to the overflow room than I've ever seen here this year. One of the big panels was the Critical Role team was there. All of them.
Oh yeah, we talked about that last week. That they were there.
Their panel filled up before the con floor opened. Okay, because they had a pre-line, and then the overflow room filled up before the actual panel started too. So if you didn't get in there, you were done. Same thing with Mark Ruffalo's panel. We're going to talk a little bit about his news. The Arrow panel with Stephen Amell and Emily Bett Rickards. They were there. A lot of panels filled up early. So that was crazy because I've never seen that many before happen. And then he also agreed with me, get your stuff on Friday so you don't have to carry it around when it's super packed on Saturday. And also... The big thing that got him was the immensity of it all. Like, how overwhelming it is if you're not expecting it to be that big. Because we talk about it, right? Like, we go to little Comic-Cons, and San Diego's a big one, but, like, Chicago is a large convention, and you can get lost in there very easily. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. So, he also said that, you know, he got to go talk to Joe Hill. We've talked a lot about Joe Hill lately.
Oh, yeah. I saw he posted some of those pictures up on his Instagram. Yeah. So, I guess he also had a panel, too, which is pretty cool.
Yep. His panel filled up as well. But he got, Jim got a book signed from him. And, you know, Joe, the son of Stephen King, did the most recently Lock and Key for that. And then Boss Logic was there.
Oh, great.
But he was not at his booth as far as we could tell all day. So
he's a busy guy.
Yeah, we couldn't find him. So that was interesting to see Boss Logic come in and have a panel. I think it was his first Comic-Con as a presenter. So
yeah, I will give a little bit of advice to anybody out there who might describe themselves as like an anxious person or doesn't like crowds or doesn't like people and kind of makes them really, really nervous. The great thing about like Comic-Cons is, yes, it does get packed, it does get full. There's a lot of people around there, but the great thing is like everybody's looking at something else, doing something else, concentrating, trying to get somewhere. So if you're there, it's almost like you can become invisible because like you're just another body that nobody really is paying attention to or really even cares about. So like if you just want to just go and show up and just like watch people, it's just kind of like going to like a carnival. Like nobody really is gonna like get in your way or get in your face. So don't let the big crowds dissuade you.
Exactly. And one of the cool things was, we talked about this a little bit with somebody that, you know, we all have different, we disagree here. We disagree, we can disagree. Marvel, DC, all these people are there, right? Everyone's passionate about this stuff, but no one's in an argument ever here. You can all have your own opinion. But we're all celebrating these very nerdy, very comic booky, very superhero-y things together. And there's no reason, no one makes a fuss. There's no line cutting. It's very civil.
And it's so easy to strike up conversations with people. Like if you're waiting in line, or it could be any line, a line for a panel, a line for like a soft pretzel. Like what T-shirt are they wearing? Oh, is it a Rick and Morty T-shirt? Oh, are you watching the new season? And then people just like willingly want to chat. It's just nerds being nerds. I'm a huge proponent of going to cons. And
what it's funny you mentioned that we were waiting in line to get our book signed by the Marvel Comics panel, and a guy from Moscow, Russia was behind me, and we struck up a conversation.
Great, yeah.
He went to Mardi Gras earlier in the week, and then was capping his weekend off at C2E2 before going back. And he did not. He only had. You can get 2 books signed by these guys, right? Only 2. Mm-hmm. He had one, and he was like, I wish I would didn't know these people here. I wish I would have brought something else if I could have got 2. I'm like, well, here I had an extra book I'd picked up for $2 earlier. I'm like, take it, get it signed. It's yours. You're coming in from Russia. Like, don't miss out on this opportunity.
Oh, great.
To get a book signed.
That's a great gesture, Chris. Good job.
Yeah, so, there's situations where I've been paid forward before. I'm paying it forward now. Comic-Con brings out the best in everybody. So, just don't take a stroller.
Heartwarming story.
Yeah. So that's my C2E2 recap. I've gone on way too long. I could give a shout out to all the people I ran into randomly on the floor that I knew. I walked into a hug from someone I used to work with when I lived in Indianapolis.
Walk into a hug.
It was fantastic. It's just I'm just overflowing with love for this stuff and these events and the people there. So I can't recommend it enough. But now we're gonna get into the news. Now that we've done our due diligence on our recap here, Mark Ruffalo was there this weekend, Mike, the Hulk himself, and his favorite MCU film to make was Thor Ragnarok, he said.
I'm not surprised. I mean, it's the only time he's really kind of had a movie to himself. I mean, I would say if you had to divide that movie up percentage-wise, the Hulk is at least a third of it, if not maybe encroaching on like 40%. So, yeah, Ruffalo's really never had a film to himself, so that makes a ton of sense.
Exactly. And then, before that, he was in Age of Ultron, which was a little bit of the Hulk. But he was
Avengers.
But he's like been a mean Hulk for most of those, right? Mm-hmm. So in Ragnarok, he was a fun Hulk the whole time. So, and I'm sure working with Taika Waititi, he got to improv stuff and make stuff up as they were going to really set those jokes apart from other stuff. So I think that's a good time. Also, he brought up the topic of She-Hulk, Mike, because if you got a She-Hulk, you got a She-Hulk too somewhere down the road. And he has had preliminary talks with Marvel to be in this series.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it makes total sense. If you're having all of these other big shots showing up in the Disney Plus streaming series, it would be so weird to have a She-Hulk show, right, without him in it. I would hope that, we've been promised these big cinematic stories. So I hope it's not just like a cameo. I hope he's like integral to the plot, the storyline. Of course, if he needs to go out and, pick up cigarettes, if you will, and come back for the last episode to maybe save some of the special effects budget, I'm okay with that. But, don't just allude that there's a Hulk out in the world. Show us the other Hulk.
Well, especially if they're doing a blood transfusion kind of thing, like this is the character is integral because she got a blood transfusion from Bruce Banner. So I'd be down to see that and have him in there. Not every episode she needs to have her own story, but calling him for advice or what do you do, how do you handle this kind of thing would be interesting. For others in intercutted scenes throughout the show. Also, She-Hulk begins filming this summer. In case you were wondering. I think he brought that up, or that was some other news this week.
I think some of the news floating around is that the casting call that's out there for She-Hulk is something along the lines of an Alison Brie type, which Alison Brie most recently starred in Glow on Netflix, and then kind of rose to fame in NBC's Community. Alison Brie. I keep confusing her with Brie Larson, which is totally okay. They know people do that. So Alison Brie. So I don't know if that means like that's kind of their coy way of saying, hey, Alison Brie, would you like to be in this? Or if they're just looking someone for her like that. She is a very tiny, small person. So maybe they'll play against that type to be like, oh, before she got these She-Hulk powers, she was a small, meek person that was pushed over. Then all of a sudden she got these big powers, and now she's leaning into what it's like to be able to beat people up. So, I might be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, they've I think it's one of those things like where they're saying that this is gonna be one of those things like they're gonna cast somebody very soon. It's not gonna be there, but it's gonna be very similar to that person they're speculating about.
Well, this would be, if this is filming this summer, this will be the first new addition to the MCU that's announced, right? At least casting-wise.
Miss Marvel will be the first. It starts filming in April.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we probably would hear about that first. So,
and, we talked last week. There's a Disney Plus panel this month in March that they'll be probably announcing and stuff at.
Yeah, that's right. It's like standalone from D23 and conventions.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna get all of our casting very, very soon for these filmings to start taking place. For that. Also, the last thing from the panel from C2E2, that while news is still trickling down from all these panels, is some Rise of Skywalker information because
I was waiting for this.
The novelization of the book is finally out, and they were selling the first copies at the show floor. They sold out. Like, you couldn't even get, if you didn't get it when they first launched, like, you couldn't get them. Like, they were done. They sold out of these. So it will be available publicly later, but this was the first time. There are some revelations from the movie, Mike. Do we go into it?
Yeah, I think we do. At this point in time, like, I don't think it's necessarily... I don't even really know how to tackle this. It's just extremely upsetting that at first they were revealing kind of these just one-off details that I could see them cutting from the movie, that they were putting in like the art book or something like that, or what was it, like the visualization of Star Wars? I don't remember what
the visual encyclopedias come out. Yeah, with everything.
That's what it was. Yeah, it wasn't the art book; it was like the encyclopedia or whatever. So I was like, okay, yeah. I guess we find out that Lando and that one girl were related through that book. It was weirdly added on the movie. Okay, whatever. That's not my biggest problem with the film. But the novelization is like hiding like key critical information that absolutely, in my mind, should have been in the movie. It would have made the movie better, in my mind. I don't think it entirely would have saved it for me, but at least it would have made things a little bit better. And then they're just putting it in this novel. Like, this does not appease me.
Well, here's the thing. If the novel had come out before the movie, I'd say you're right. I think this is an apologist novel, and they saved it for afterwards. To fill in the holes.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, how long does it take to write a novel? I'm not a professional writer, so I don't know.
But if they had the base done, and they were like, okay, here's the complaints, go write these real fast. Like, they're on Twitter the weekend the movie comes out, and like, okay, fill in these holes in the novel real fast. But, I mean, so the thing is, this actually integrates previous Star Wars legacy like knowledge or stuff into the canon of Star Wars, kind of, right? Because spoilers, pausing for dramatic effect, that Palpatine is confirmed to be in a clone body of the Emperor with his actual spirit in this clone body and is deteriorating or whatever it is. So in the legacy novels, the old books before they wiped those out, the Emperor cloned himself multiple times and became a thorn in the side of the Skywalker and Solos for a while. So this kind of brings that to power and confirms that the Palpatine we saw on the what's that, like one of those metal stair things that you can buy for old people now. They slide upstairs. That it was a cloned body, not his actual living original body from the first movies. I
mean, as you know, I'm working my way through the Clone Wars animated series, and this is a television show directly made for a younger audience on a much smaller budget. CG shows usually can be made for usually a smaller amount because they're reusing assets. So basically they're working with a lot less over there at the Clone Wars offices, and I think they're just telling much better stories than what we saw in this Star Wars movie that they have to write the ship with a novel. So it's kind of just having the reverse effect on me, where it's like I'm watching this animated show and I'm just like, wow, this is really, really great. And it's weird because it's given me an appreciation for the prequels, at least the story elements that Lucas wanted to provide, but also making me look at these newer movies that were made and go like, there's no excuse. You're having a small writer's room making a child's animated show, and I think they're telling more sophisticated stories, at least from what I'm watching, than what they're doing here, and they have to fix it all with a book. So it just all makes me very frustrated.
Well, I think there's two things here just to fix it. I don't think they're making a children's show. I think they're making an animated show with adult tendencies.
It's definitely. I will say it's definitely for an older audience, but it is indeed on the Cartoon Network, so you can say it's being angled towards somebody else.
I think it originally was, and then they snuck in, "Hey, here's these serious things. We're going to kill people." By the time you keep track of how many necks get snapped in the show, Mike, you just keep.
Oh watching. Yeah, I mean they're starting to drop the words like "kill" and "murdered" a lot more, so they're definitely maturing it up.
And then I think the other thing is like when you have 4 a whole season to tell stories and get acquainted with characters. It's a little different. So, but it sounds like you are enjoying the Clone Wars as you continue to progress through them.
It's been fun. They've been telling some really unique stories, like gripping with what is the idea of like being a clone and what's your purpose. There was this really cool arc where they went to like Mandalore, where there was this like separatist like body of like warriors that were living on the moon that didn't want to live underneath the larger Mandalorian rule. And then I came across that one-off line that kind of explains why Jango Fett was in the armor, because he was some thief that stole it. So yeah, there's some really cool, interesting arcs that are coming up here. So I will keep trekking along with the Clone Wars, because I think I got now 8 more weeks until the final season wraps. So I think the stars will align, and I should be able to catch up by the time everything airs.
Well, if you're in Death Watch, you're at least season 3, so that's a good start. I'm still. Yeah. I think I'm at the end of 4 to the beginning of. I'm in the beginning of 5. Have you been playing more Fallen Order by chance at all?
No, I'm still in the early stages, but I found my little robot buddy now.
One of the planets in that game is a huge factor in one of the season 5 episodes. So I think that's really cool. So I think we'll talk more as you move along in both of these.
All right, gotcha.
So yeah, that was news straight from the show floor. Now we're gonna get into our regularly scheduled news program. I don't know if it's because C2E2 is this week or because there are things around the world overshadowing all the news. There's not a lot of news this week, to be honest. So we're gonna go and talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is currently in its second set of shooting, or quote unquote reshoots, if you will, in Atlanta, and we get some propaganda posters that they say are not spoilers that says Cap is back with John Walker in the Captain America outfit here that's floating around set.
Yeah, it's safe to say not spoilers, because we're all very familiar with Chris Evans' beautiful face now, and that is not Chris Evans' face. So even if you're not familiar with the set photos that we have talked about on this show many times with the new actor who's playing this kind of new rebooted version of Cap, this is definitely a different person. I like the little addition of the U.S. Army logo in the corner. This is definitely, I'm already kind of seeing the story like lay out. I think we've mentioned this before, the idea of, the U.S. Army, or I guess the government in general, is just like, we have this Cap-shaped hole. We didn't have control of Cap before he left, but, if we kind of resurrect a new Cap, we can be in control of him, give him a new costume. So that's kind of what it looks like they're doing here.
And this recruitment thing, say, if John Walker can become Captain America, so can you join the Army, kind of thing. So, and notice I didn't notice this, but the U.S. Army star is kind of like what's on his helmet now, where his A is.
Oh yeah, I can see that. I think the big looming question is, does John Walker have powers? How is he augmented? I mean, if I don't know if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. could even be considered canon at this point in time moving forward.
It is not.
But they had the ability to kind of take regular humans and make them strong with like a serum. I mean, it was temporary, and I believe it did have downsides in the long term for that person. But yeah, if this person is purely just a prop for the cameras, kind of actually how Cap was at the very beginning of his story. I mean, though he did have powers at the beginning, he was just somebody going on a road show, dancing on stage. So maybe this is what John Walker is going to do. He just gets trotted out in front of the Rose Garden in front of cameras. He doesn't really do anything. I
think he's going to have something bigger here, because I think that's the real shield that has somehow gotten back in their hands, and they need to go get it back from him. I think somehow the government has somehow taken the shield away, and they need to go get it back. So I'm excited to see how this all ties in together.
Well, technically, it could be U.S. government property, because it was Tony Stark's dad. Why can't I think of his first name?
Howard Stark.
Howard Stark. It was Howard Stark's invention, and he technically probably was using the R&D budget for the government to make it, and they probably supplied him with the vibranium. So yeah, it probably is owned by America. So I could see a confrontation where we saw that one little clip of the shield being thrown into a tree. Maybe right after that, a helicopter comes in and be like, hey, thanks for saving the world, but that's our property. Give it back to us. Or
I think that would cause Black Panther to kick him. Like, no. You stole the vibranium from us. That's ours.
Black Panther's a little too busy right now. He's hopefully thwarting. Hopefully he's thwarting an undersea king.
He is
right
gonna
now.
help a brother out and come get that shield back for Anthony Mackie. That's what's gonna happen.
No, Anthony Mackie is busy in the new season of Altered Carbon that I'm not watching, but I saw him on the poster. So
yeah,
all of these things cross over in 2020, obviously.
Exactly. Netflix and Disney working together, using Anthony Mackie as the glue to hold it all together. So anyway, John Walker as Captain America, promotional posters, and the person who took it said they asked, and these are not spoilers for the show. So that's
it's not a spoiler. It's just some context.
It is in the first kind of look as how they portray him in there. Next up on that list is the Loki show, and this is going to be very cool for me, Mike. The production team for Loki has been ordering a vast array of comic materials, right, to work on this stuff.
That's good.
The common thread of these is the team called the Squadron Supreme.
Oh, please tell me about the Squadron Supreme.
Oh, I would love to. I actually have all of their appearances behind me on the shelf behind me right now, believe it or not.
You always are infatuated with kind of these one-off teams that are kind of off the beaten path. I mean,
yeah.
the Inhumans may or may not be on that path. Maybe they're on a little bit slightly more graveled paved road. But Squadron Supreme, it sounds like a dirt road to me.
Yes. So the version of the Squadron Supreme I am familiar with is it's a different universe here, but they are essentially Marvel's not parody, but like kind of adjacent Justice League characters.
Okay.
So there is the characters. The core members of these teams include Hyperion, which is essentially their Superman. Mm-hmm. Nighthawk, which is Batman.
Okay.
Power Princess, which is
Wonder Woman.
There you go. And a character called the Wizard, who is
I'm guessing the Flash.
He just goes to the bathroom all the time. There's also Dr. Spectrum, which is kind of like a Green
Dr.
Lantern.
Fate? Oh,
No, it's a Green Lantern. Like the spectrum of the colors is what it leads
okay.
into. And so they were kind of like a pastiche of the Justice League, if you will. And there are some in the main Marvel universe, but I have their ones where they were in the Supreme universe, which is a different universe, and they played a big role in the Jonathan Hickman New Avengers stuff, because they were a team that had to fight the Avengers to figure out whose world would not blow up. So if these characters are showing up, do you think Loki might accidentally create a timeline where the Avengers aren't exist, but the Squadron Supreme show up?
I mean, the Squadron Supreme sounds so uniquely different. It doesn't sound like if a butterfly flapped its wings, these characters would come into existence. I mean, after watching all of these CW crossover things, it just sounds like another dimension to me. It just sounds like a totally separate reality, which makes me wonder, is this going to tee into the multiverse of madness anyway? Because that seems like it's weird for me to imagine Loki jumping around into a different dimension, but then technically that dimension is not the same as whatever multiverse Doctor Strange is going to be dealing with. I don't know, because does Loki come out? Because it's the Scarlet Witch.
It is after Scarlet Witch. It was originally the first one. And now it's that's the third one, or second one, but now it's the third one.
Man, if only there was a really nice organized list where we could look at all the releases of all of these upcoming shows and movies. Oh, wait, there is. It's on our website. It's in the upcoming releases tab. And I'm checking it out right now.
And this is the last show before Into the Multiverse.
Oh, yep, right here. Spring in 2021, we have Loki. And then probably, I'm assuming just weeks away, you'll be seeing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So, yeah, maybe that is one of the multiverses.
Yeah, and they are technically from different universe. I think Earth 712. In the Ultimate Universe, there was a crossover called Ultimate Power, which the Ultimate, the Squadron Supreme was an all, I think, female version of them came over to the Ultimate thing. I've got all the trades behind me. I picked them up several years ago. So this is always cool whenever one of these things I'm like, oh, this is a little, unheard of thing. I feel hipstery when I do it, but it's cool.
Well, Well, if we are to believe that these Disney Plus shows will act in a similar vein to the films, we will be seeing some sort of setup for the next project. So now in the movie universe, we have seen setups for the next movie in the timeline, and we have also seen setups in the post-credit scenes for the next iteration of that movie.
Yeah.
So not necessarily the next, not like Ant-Man going into the next, Spider-Man movie or whatever. It might be going into the next Ant-Man movie. So if that is the case, maybe WandaVision, some sort of post-credit scene will set up the next Disney Plus show, which will be Loki. So if Wanda separates things into dimensions, maybe she's making extra dimensions for Loki. I don't know. We're shuffling a lot of cards here.
Yeah, but I mean, this is cool. If it is they remind me a little bit of we're in an interesting thing now where we're getting all these like The Boys and Umbrella Academy and all these I guess not quite mainstream character group teams together, and this feels like one of those showing up in Loki. So maybe this is the team that polices the multiverses instead of what they really are. They could change them quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
who knows? We'll find out.
But if you end up going and Google searching Squadron Supreme, you're going to see, oh my god, this is the Justice League, just just a little bit to the left. So that's really cool. Moon Knight is looking to release actually December of 2021 or spring of 2022, Mike, making it one of the later shows to be released.
I'm usually not one to ask for release dates to be pushed, but I've said this before on the show. No more December. I'm busy traveling for the holidays, seeing family. I don't want to stream these shows on my iPad, like laying down in a box spring twin bed mattress, but if it came out in December 21, that would be pretty close to WandaVision. Isn't that one of the last shows that we heard of?
WandaVision is 2020.
Oh, that's right.
We're already in 2020. Yeah.
Well, either way, if Wanda's going to be intervening with my holiday this year, it sounds like maybe Moon Knight's going to be intervening with it next year.
Well, we're in a very interesting time. This year we only have 2 Marvel movies, right? 2021 we start up with 3 or 4. And what we have is Loki, Shang-Chi, then probably Loki, then Doctor Strange, and then wait a while for Spider-Man 3. Then we have a long wait till Thor and Love and Thunder. But then we could do, Hawkeye could be in there, Miss Marvel's in there, She-Hulk's in there. Moon Knight would fill up the void between Thor, Love and Thunder, and then the upcoming February 18th Marvel Studios film, which could probably be Captain Marvel 2. Like, they could fill all these holes between movies with Marvel properties.
Yeah,
on Disney Plus.
That sounds like the plan. I think we'll probably be talking Disney strategy here when it comes to our last topic of the show, which is probably one of the bigger news items of the week for sure. But I'm looking forward to Moon Knight. I want to see what they do with this guy.
And it's supposed to be filming this mid-November in Atlanta. So I think we may get casting news as soon as April, or we may wait till Comic-Con to get something of that. Since D23 is not this year, I believe. Yeah. Because it was last year. Is it? I don't know. We'll figure it out later. Spider-Man 3 has a working title of Serenity Now. Mike, are you familiar with this reference?
Serenity Now. Yes, it is.
Insanity later.
The soothing, calming phrase given to the Costanzas. And I think it actually was one of the later seasons of Seinfeld.
Yeah, it was with I forget his name, but he was selling computers.
Was it Joe? Is it Joe Rifkin? Is that his name?
No, not. I don't think. No, not Joe Rifkin. That was the other one. Someone's screaming at us right now through this because I watched Seinfeld. I made so many Seinfeld references this weekend. People are gonna be like, "Why do you not get it?" But it is a reference to how to calm himself down. So Serenity Now, whenever they were selling computers out of George's dad's garage, with I can't think of his name. Anyway, the other previous films in Spider-Man working titles were, the first one was Summer of George, which is another Seinfeld reference, and then The Fall of George was Far From Home.
Oh, I had no idea that they had this Seinfeld running gag. I love that. That's great. The movies have always been funny. So if you're somebody that has an infatuation with Seinfeld, you're probably going to have a funny bone, if you will. So.
Oh, I am. I'm having a great time with this. But are you ready for the upcoming Disneyland Marvel Avengers
Oh, yes,
land.
please. I only go to Disney like once a year. So every time I go, there's usually something brand new that has opened. So I'm totally down for some more additions.
Yes, so Avengers Campus is opening, I think, this fall, right? Or late summer.
I think it's supposed to be this year. It seems very, very quick. It's amazing how fast that those Imagineers can build stuff.
Yes, and one of the rides is the Web Slinger ride. If you know, I don't know what that means. I don't know what it looks like, but this will feature the character Dr. Octopus. And this is interesting because all of these Avengers Campus things are tied into the MCU at large.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, it's not like they're going to use... Well, I mean, if the conspiracy theorists are true and the Raimi-verse is somehow eking its head back in there, maybe it will be that version of Dr. Octopus. But yeah, we don't have a canon Doc Ock right now.
We don't. And would this mean, if they're going to put him in a ride, like they've tied all the other things to the movies, will this mean the third Spider-Man movie will have the villain Dr. Octopus again? And that's why Sam Raimi's coming back to rehash his Spider-Man 2 again.
Oh, geez, I don't know. I mean,
he's not coming back with Spider-Man, but
I really love Doc Ock's arc in the Sony Spider-Man video game. Just kind of showed a different way that you can kind of bring this man to madness. Because Doc Ock in Sam Raimi's movies is more of a victim, I would say, of faulty technology. He, at his core, he was a good person. But in the Spider-Man video game, he kind of slowly descends into madness as he's feuding with Norman Osborn, and he's brought to the edge, and also he's gripping with his impending kind of diagnosis and death. So if they want to bring kind of that kind of Doc Ock into the MCU, that would be really cool, because that's kind of a different way to kind of motivate your villain.
Yeah, or it's just for the
or it's just for the ride, and we're just like making up stuff.
We're really making up, because I mean, why would you put the character in there before the movie, kind of thing? Like, I think the rides can was it the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout is right over there, right? And they use the movie versions, but that doesn't tie into the movies at all.
Well, one thing that they could do is, if it's, I don't know what kind of ride this is. Usually when you build a ride that you ride in, or if you're going in and out of areas, I feel like it takes a while to build. So I don't know if this is just going to be like some sort of simple like carnival Ferris wheel ride that's themed, just like Disneyfied. But if it's like an actual ride where they're doing a bunch of like maybe cool Imagineering stuff, maybe you just see the Doc Ock tentacles. You never see his face, you never see the costume, but we're all very familiar with what the tentacles look like, and as long as they come in groups of 4, it's very obviously that it's a Doc Ock. So maybe they'll just be doing that, and then they're kind of future-proofing themselves, because more than likely a Doc Ock later in the MCU, I would only assume, would also have robotic tentacles, and if they really needed to update them aesthetic-wise, you just update that one little part of the ride and you're fine.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I'm going to lean into, like, this is going to be something not in the movies, and this ride is not going to really affect the MCU large. It's just another ride. And here's some fun stuff. But I mean, this is interesting. I kind of want to know more about this web slinger ride, and eat at the the Pym Particles is the food court over there and stuff like that. So, do you think you're gonna have like pills that taste like food?
No, I think that's just Disney's way of selling you really tiny food for a really high markup. Be like, hey, we can't help it. It's Pym related. Here's your one.
Oops, we shrunk it.
Yeah, here's your one crouton. We promise that it's a sandwich. Now give us $12.
Yeah, honey, I shrunk the food. So, yeah, that's up for Spider-Man 3. But speaking of Spider-Man and all things Spider-Man related, Venom 2 is filming, and we have some interesting looking photos of Woody Harrelson on the street, dressed up as Cletus Cassidy, and I don't know what's going on here, but I don't know if I like it or if I don't like it yet.
Well, I mean, this is the first time I've seen the whole gallery. I've seen, obviously, this picture of him in the Hawaiian shirt kind of on Twitter and Instagram over the week. But I'm looking in this gallery, more looking at the wire work. I'm like seeing people in spandex suits being suspended from wires with like really blobby green screen backgrounds. And I'm like, well, this dude that's in the jumpsuit, he doesn't really look like I don't know if he's doing motion capture. None of these people look familiar. I don't know if they're just practicing a stunt or what's going on here.
Yeah, so I think the man in the wire suit is a Venom stand-in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I guess technically Venom's all CG, so they don't really need a big buff guy in a suit. But I was like, this guy's more slim. He kind of looks more like a Spider-Man standee, or possibly a Carnage standee to me.
Well, Carnage, I don't think would be rescuing a guy falling, is what this looks like.
Well, if he wants to eat him and save him for later, who knows?
No, he cut him right in half. Hopefully, I mean, I'm really banking on a Carnage that's brutal and mean. And then in a couple of these photos, you see Woody Harrelson in a sport coat over the Hawaiian shirt, and sometimes he's not in it. So I don't know what's going on here, but he's got his hair trimmed red, dyed red on the sides, and like a straight line on the top here.
I do have to say, when I saw Woody Harrelson at the very end of the first Venom movie, I mean, I was already done with the film by the end of it. So just seeing him there, I was like, oh, God, this is so weird. But we did just watch Zombieland Double Tap last night in my household. And I forgot how fun Woody Harrelson can be. And I'll just go ahead and recommend Zombieland Double Tap to anyone. What an amazing sequel. Like one of the better sequels I've seen in a really, really long time. And a lot of fun. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to a little bit more Woody Harrelson. This warms me back up to him again.
He's not wearing he doesn't have the Sideshow Bob mop on top of his head, and he looks like he's actually like mean and like like actually like a crazy kind of person. So
yeah. So he's sporting a very strange haircut. Only an insane person would do that really weird comb forward, but it looks like it's kind of gelled with a curling iron. I don't even know what's going on there.
It's like a crazy person would wear. And that second photo at the top of this, he's got that mean look on his face. I'm like, yeah, he's crazy. I can see that. So yeah, take a look at that gallery in our show notes. This week, I believe it was earlier this week, Star Wars officially announced their Project Luminous being the High Republic, Mike. Back when they legalized marijuana in the Star Wars universe, 200 years before the Phantom Menace. Now, it's a series of published projects set 200 years before the Phantom Menace.
Oh my God! So, Chris, real quick, this is one of those times where I'm really glad I have a podcast, because I have such a small, inconsequential gripe that nobody else out there would ever care about. And by the time I came across this announcement YouTube video, there was already like a ton of YouTube comments. I'm sure if I went and looked it up on Reddit, the thread would already be really long. So my complaint is going to fall on deaf ears. But I watched this YouTube video with like zero context at all. Like somebody on Facebook shared the link, so I just clicked on it and I started watching it. I believe it's roughly like a 6 or 5 minute video. And if you watch it with no context, you have no idea what it is. You're just watching a bunch of these people say how excited they are to delve back into storytelling for Star Wars. They talk about working with concept artists, drawing all these different things. And I'm like at 2 or 3 minutes into the video, and I'm just like, what is this? Is this a video game? Is this a comic book? Are they talking about streaming shows? How big of a deal is this? Like, I have no context. And then like maybe about 3/4 of the way through the video, they drop something vaguely saying that it's being published. So I was like, okay, so it's not a movie. So this is a comic book. Is this a novel? Are these audiobooks? Is this a podcast? What's going on here? And then at the very, very end, they still don't even say what it is. So all I have to say is, if you produced this little sizzle reel of a video, you did not do the number one thing that you needed to do, was tell me that these are going to be books or comic books, or it was going to be the written word. So I'm glad I have a very niche audience here to complain to about this.
Well, the first wave is books and comic books. They can go into other things from here.
Well, I'm very glad that this podcast exists, so you can inform me on these things that this highly produced video forgot to tell me.
Yes. So the first thing is there's some books they're novels, and then I believe IDW, which is interesting, and Marvel both have a comic series each. But there's like three novels. And is this one the last one? Yeah, that's not audiobook, so it is a novel. So there's 3 novels and stuff for this in the High Republic, which is set, like I said, around when Yoda's about 700 years old. So we could be seeing maybe an active Jedi Yoda, not a Council Yoda yet.
So he's not old Yoda. He's definitely not going to be in a baby phase. He will be what are we thinking like here? Like
midlife crisis,
mid 50s Yoda buying a speeder and getting away from his family. Yeah. Well, this will be the story where we finally see how Dad left home for just to get out of the house and never return.
Yeah. So, but there are multiple characters. None of these characters I think I've ever heard of in here. From all the covers and stuff you see, these are not people we've known before, which is going to be interesting to tell this new thing. Some of these are pretty cool. They look like, the Jedis are wearing white robes. There's yellow lightsabers in this, different ships. They kind of look a little, I don't know, I guess maybe like holy warriors, if you will, as the Jedi in this range.
Yeah, all I heard during the sizzle reel was everybody was really excited to work in this kind of time frame because they were close enough to kind of the prequel stuff they could deal with kind of the political structure of what the prequels had set up, but they're far enough away from the characters where they could still include Yoda, but we're not so far back in time like Knights of the Old Republic where things are just fundamentally different.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I guess between the prequels and Knights of the Old Republic, you have many pockets of time where you can tell stories. So 200 years. I'm curious what they're going to do. Yeah,
with this, and then again, the first book will be and comics will debut at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim this August. So we're going to be seeing what this is and kind of where it goes later this year. So that's pretty cool. Also, again, like we said, these will not overlap with any of the films or series planned for production. This is just a publishing thing of books, comics, maybe audio. I could see audiobooks on podcasts, but nothing movies, nothing TV series. So no worries there. This is news. I don't know what to do with this news, Mike. This is weird. Indiana Jones 5 starts filming this summer. James Mangold, known for the Logan, Wolverine, recently Ford versus Ferrari, is in talks to replace Steven Spielberg as a director for this movie.
And I'm on board with this.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, good. I thought I was leaning too hard. I know we have some Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford fans. I think replacing a director is less noticeable than replacing a actor for Indiana Jones. So they want to do this, go for it. I think this is the first movie in the franchise to have not Steven Spielberg, right? Am I correct in that?
I think so. I mean, I don't believe George Lucas was attached to the Crystal Skull. Maybe I'm wrong. But Steven Spielberg definitely was. So this will be the first time Spielberg won't be attached to it. So from my point of view is I am the last person on this planet that should ever be criticizing the monumental successful career that Steven Spielberg should have. So I should just get that out of the way. He is a master filmmaker and I have no right to criticize him. But I feel like any creative person on the planet has all of their best kind of has all of their kind of better moments kind of earlier in their career. That's when they're really taking chances or really going for gold, putting more at risk. I mean, for better or for worse, Steven Spielberg doesn't have to really risk really anything anymore. I mean, he could make a string. He could make like a dozen bad movies. And he could never make a Hollywood film ever again, but he could still get paid out the nose for just doing anything else. He could do speaking engagements. He could he could put his face on I don't know, a bag of Doritos and make money. He's a made man. So what I'm saying is I feel like if he's approaching Indiana Jones for the 5th time, what unique spin is he going to add to it? He's been there so many times already. I feel like it's time for him to let Indiana Jones go and give it to a new person who probably has a lot more love for the franchise. I'm assuming just like every other director out there who is younger than Steven Spielberg probably grew up watching Indiana Jones over and over again and loved it. So yeah, I'm totally fine with a new director coming in and taking the reins of this.
Yeah, Lucas did do the story for all 4 of those other movies. So it was him, those two kind of creating it too. So new director is great. I think Spielberg will stay on as producer. One of the writers is Jonathan Kasdan, Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back, his dad, so he's got some pedigree there. And then the writer for this is David Cope. The co-writer is David Cope as well, who is known for movies like the original Jurassic Park. I think we both agree that's good. This first Spider-Man movie in 2002, and some other bad ones I'm not going to mention on here. I like the most recent, The Mummy. So. But also he wrote that with Christopher McQuarrie and somebody else. But there's this could be fine, right? You think they know the feedback from the last movie? Don't do aliens.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we'll kind of see how this pans out when the next Ghostbusters movie comes out. But I feel like if you're going to be revitalizing a very classic franchise and bringing it back, you kind of need to treat it with a little bit more respect and I would say emotion. Like, you don't necessarily have to like be like super funny and very family friendly. Like, maybe treat it really seriously and very emotionally, because everybody loves the character of Indiana Jones. So like, if they want to do something super serious like they did with sending off Logan in a very melancholy, sad way, I'm totally fine with them doing that with Indiana Jones, just because it all means a lot to us. So maybe take it emotionally seriously. I don't know. I'm sure other people will disagree and say like, oh, Indiana Jones is a fun character, don't kill him off, but he's got to die eventually.
This is the last one. Let's all be honest here.
Oh yeah, there's no way there's another one after this.
There's no way, at least in the same world or with the same thing. So we just if you're gonna send it off, James Mangold, he did it with Logan. He sent off Wolverine in a good way. People love that movie. So let's hope it gets the same kind of love and care.
Like I said a few weeks ago, if you want a fun Indiana Jones story, just go play the Uncharted franchise on the PlayStation. It's a great Indiana Jones story. It's great.
They'll make that movie eventually, right? With Tom Holland.
I hope so, and I hope it's good.
So, yeah, there's that as well. Lastly, in news that was misconstrued across the nation this week, Mike, because we all know better. At Disney, Bob Iger has fulfilled his promise of stepping down as Disney CEO, finally, and effective immediately, which means people thought he was fired. With the current Disney Parks president, I think Bob Chapek, replacing him. Mm-hmm. So, Bob Iger, he's been talking about this since like 2015, stepping away.
Yeah, it seems like the biggest news out of it, though, was that it was effective immediately, and I think the immediacy of it is the thing that people were really jumping on all week.
They were very scared, like he was fired or some scandal went down. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he's done some great things. He helped acquire Marvel. He helped acquire Pixar. He helped acquire Fox. He helped launch Disney Plus. He was supposed to leave like I think 2017, 2018, but then he stayed through to see the Fox acquisition all the way through, and then he was going to leave again in I think 2019. But then he's like, I'm seeing the launch of Disney Plus through, and then he will stay on for like the next year and a half, 2 years in like a creative capacity. Which I think is, it's a good way to go.
That's the funniest thing about all of this is he's still in the organization, and he basically stepped down but also promoted himself. So now he's just working in a creative capacity, but I believe Bob Chapek has to report to Bob Iger still. Yeah. So like Chapek is still the CEO, but Bob Iger is still like head honcho pretty much for the most part. So he'll be sticking around and, till his tenure tapers off. But I think the answer of the immediacy is within his new job title. Like, he just wants to be on the creative side of things. I'm guessing he just was like tired of like running the company. And I think he was actually quoted in an interview saying something along those lines of, oh, I'm just tired of running this giant organization. I just want to work on the creative stuff. So I guess maybe this is kind of like his, what do they call it? Senioritis, your last couple weeks of your senior year. He's just kind of cruising through. I guess the last time there was a CEO changeover, it was a lot more hectic and chaotic. So also maybe the immediacy of it is very much like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's like, yeah, we might worry our stockholders for like maybe a week or so, but things will rebound pretty quickly and we'll be fine. So that would be my guess. I don't think there's any grander conspiracy theory.
Right. And like he's announced this for years and just kept pushing it back. So like I think that's the best part is like, it's not, or it wasn't like, yeah, this is just happening now. Sorry, everybody panic. We have no one running the ship except this guy. Like he knew what he was doing. He knew who he's announcing to do it, to take over from him, and I think they have plans for it. So I don't think there's any cause for concern, or I think people don't like Bob Chapek. They think people who worked at the parks really don't like him. but they like the new guy who's running the parks after him. So I think that's a plus side from what I've heard from people who work there. But that's it.
I heard Chapek was a little bit of a hatchet guy. He kind of went through and cleared out departments of a lot of pork fat, if you will. And I think he was also really turning a profit with the park. So I'm sure he was kind of cutting budgets and pinching pennies over there. So maybe that is what Disney needs possibly in this next phase, because Bob Iger went on the most expensive and most successful shopping spree of buying up all these studios and all these properties. So now that they have all these assets and they're starting to use it to turn it into content, I guess it kind of makes sense to bring in Chapek to make sure this stuff stays profitable moving forward. I guess one of the more least talked about stories out of this is, I don't remember this guy's last name, but there's multiple Kevins over at Disney. So obviously we all know Kevin Feige. There's this other Kevin that I can't remember his last name, but this guy runs Disney Plus. He is the Disney Plus guy, so he's in charge of that streaming service. And I guess it was very heavily rumored that he was going to be taking over for Iger when Iger stepped down. And I guess that didn't end up happening, but I guess the word out on the street is that Bob Chapek is a little bit more consumer friendly, like to the public, and this other Kevin guy wasn't so much. So a lot of people are saying watch out for this Kevin over at Disney Plus. He might not be sticking around very much longer, because obviously it seems like he did not get the promotion he was looking for. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe after a year or two at Disney Plus, he moves off to the next competing streaming service that needs a high-powered CEO. And
Quibi.
So who knows? Yeah, maybe he'll. Yeah, that would be pretty funny considering. Was it Eisenberg that left Disney to create Quibi? I always forget the guy's name that made Quibi.
Disney or Pixar, one of the two. Yeah.
He left, made DreamWorks, then went to Quibi. Yeah. But yeah, so keep a lookout for this other Kevin guy that I can't think of his last name. But don't get confused with Feige.
Other Kevin. Other Kevin. So we'll do that. If we see any reports, we'll know.
Yeah, 2 Kevins, 2 Bobs. If you want to work for Disney, I hope your name is Kevin or Bob.
Yeah. We're not shoo-ins anymore. We thought we were, but we don't have the right names. Maybe we can go legally get those changed. All right, Mike, that's the show. It is late. I've got to edit this stuff, get it up and going. If people know what you're up to this week, where can they find you?
Oh, that's so easy. All you got to do is follow me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram and Twitter, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, people want to catch up with you, see those pictures from the convention, C2E2, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, or head on over to Twitter, Valdan, Valdan. Just like Mike says, it's so easy. Everything's easier in here. We make this the easiest podcast you'll ever have to deal with. We don't even ask for money. That's how easy we are. But if people want to know, our regular shows, we've got there's something coming out soon. I think we're watching. I don't remember what it is.
I think it's New Mutants. I think that is the next big review for us.
Yeah, New Mutants. I thought there was something in March, but I'm blanking on my upcoming schedule. It is March already. That's the crazy part. So we'll do that. But if people want to know more about us, what we do, other episodes, where can they find us?
Oh, all you got to do is visit superheroslate.com. You can find our awesome show notes over there. So if you want to see that propaganda poster from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or if you want to see those set photos of Cletus, Woody Harrelson, Cassidy, you can head on over to superheroslate.com. And you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you, so let us know what you think of the show, what you want us to talk about. Are you disappointed that Spielberg is not returning for Indiana Jones 5? Or more than likely, are you just disappointed that they're making another Indiana Jones 5? So reach out, let us know what you think about the topics we're talking about. And we love our super fans. Obviously, if you're a super fan enough, you might join us at a convention and share a hotel room with us, which, the access super fans get is off the chain. So if you want to be a super fan of this show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every single week, even after hours of driving away from a comic book convention.
It is true. Also, C2E2 2021 is in March next year, March 26th to 28th. Put it on your calendars to let your bosses know you want it off. Start saving money in your Comic-Con jar, and hopefully I'll see you there. next year. We'll see you next week.
All right, adios.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
I'm very dehydrated, just to let you know, so I will be taking drinks of water in this, so be prepared for that.